NPR rated his commencement speech as one of the best commencement speeches ever. So everybody make some noise for Jon Youshaei.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Jon Youshaei. I'm the head of creator product marketing at YouTube. I'm also an author and a cartoonist, as they mentioned. And most importantly, I'm so excited to be here in Baton Rouge with all of you guys. It's my first time here. Thank you for making me feel so welcome. I want to say thanks to Kenny and the entire team here. I think they're putting together an amazing event. And I hope at the end of this, I not only share a little bit about my story, but I want to share how you guys could help tell your stories a little bit better. So show of hands, how many of you guys are, like starting a company or working at an agency or trying to get your stories out there in an interesting way or trying to reach more people? Hands up high. Awesome, awesome. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll have some tools and some tactics to be able to tell those stories to more people and to reach a bigger audience, right? So I want to tell a little bit about my story. So I work at YouTube. I've been there for the past 4 years. When people talk about YouTube and how to go viral, they think my job involves a lot of this, right? Looking at a dog on a skateboard all day, maybe some cats involved. But the truth is that it's more about being connected with our creator community. So if you know people like Casey Neistat, Logan Paul, working with them to try to help them reach millions of subscribers, grow their audience, build products, build a platform, and help them innovate, and learning how they went viral. Also, I've been fortunate enough to be a writer for publications. Oh, I also want to say, at YouTube, on a meta level, I've also been able to help see a brand grow to the point where I remember somebody came up to me at a conference. He's like, dude, John, I got to show you this, man. I just got this the other day, and I'm thinking he's going to, I had no idea what he's going to show me. And he like pulls out this tattoo. And I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy that you have this brand that so many people love to the point where somebody is willing to ink it on themselves permanently. And it made me think, like, okay, what are these people doing to reach these many people? What are these people doing that they're able to feel so much love for a brand, and how can we do that as well? And I was fortunate enough to do that as well as a writer for Forbes, write a few articles that crossed 1 million views each. Maybe you've seen some of them in the press. One was about this Uberpreneur, a driver who made $250,000 riding Uber. It was a crazy story writing about that, and also career tips for millennials as they navigate the workplace. But something that I'm really excited about now is bringing my childhood passion into my adulthood by starting a cartoon series, which is about 2 years old now, but has 400,000 readers. So across video, written word, and now art and cartooning, I've been able to find an audience in different mediums. And today I want to share a little bit about what I learned across all three. And Every Vowel, some of you guys may be familiar with it, is a cartoon series for millennials in the workplace. Some people call it the Dilbert for this generation. Other people call it the Inside Out, Pixar's Inside Out for millennials. And basically what it's all about is talking alphabet letters, going through what we feel on a day-to-day basis. The main character is this letter Y, Gen Y. He's an associate. He sometimes feels like a vowel, but not really. He sometimes feels like a consonant. He goes through this identity crisis. You have his boss, he's like the alpha male. You have the networker that's all about herself, like getting coffee chats, but you never really know what she does for a living. You have the mentor who's all about you. You know, she's like wise sensei, really helping him out and mentoring him. And it's just about doing these weekly cartoons that has really taken off. So what have I learned from all these three things? YouTube, writing, cartooning. Here's a few lessons on how to go viral. First and foremost, content, the most important thing. What the heck do you post, right? We all have a story to tell, but the way you tell it is really important. So, the main question is, are you spending hours creating for every second that your audience member spends consuming? A lot of people nowadays say, oh, like people's attention spans are so short nowadays. I think that's complete BS. I think that nowadays people have higher bars for quality, right? You, creating your content, are competing with Game of Thrones. At any time, somebody could leave your page on their computer and go binge on a full season, right? They have that much quality at their disposal. So you have to spend hours for every second they spend consuming to respect that level of attention. So if I had to paint a picture, I'd show this one, right? If I described, oh, there's this wonderful woman, when you look at her, she looks like she's looking deep into your eyes, would that be as powerful as if I spent time painting this? No, right? And so on a very tactical level, that's what I've tried to do with my cartoons, and I think that's part of the reason why they've been able to take off, right? The lean startup. You could spend hours reading the book, and you should, but if you just want a little bit of a taste, a little bit of a takeaway to whet your appetite and ultimately dive into it, I thought I'd make a cartoon about it as part of my weekly series, right? Building a plane on the way down. How many people have felt like this before? Yeah. This guy over here really knows the feeling. He's like, I feel you, man. I totally feel you. Right? Essentialism. I don't know if people have read this book. I highly recommend it. But basically, you know, like there's a lot of meetings that don't need to happen, but they still happen. Yeah, I see a lot of head nods over here. Hell yeah. How many people have been in a meeting like this? Oh, his hand shot way up, yeah. We'll have to talk afterwards. Yes, I totally agree. This happens way too much in corporate America. Give and take. One of my favorite authors in the world, Adam Grant, right? Be a giver, not a taker. Just a little bit of taste of that is, you know, be sincere, not slimy. How many networking events have you gone to where this is the norm? Doesn't have to be. So, spending hours creating for every second they spend consuming. And there's no shortcut around that. And finding a way to visualize as much as possible so that when somebody sees your story, they're able to say, okay, I remember that. People who have a first impression of every vowel, they may not remember the name brand, but they're like, oh, that's the dude who draws the talking alphabet letters. And he's a grown man. How sad. Yes. No, that's just my parents. No, I'm kidding. They're very loving. And sometimes you could have that author feature your cartoon in their TED Talk. Adam Grant featuring in every vowel cartoon. Consistency. Okay, so now that you have a better idea of what to post, the next question, of course, is how often do you post, right? And consistency is just as important as content. And let me tell you a few stories about that. So King Batch, right, famous digital media, social media star, was big on Vine, big on YouTube, big on Snapchat. One of his big secrets to success was the fact that he was making 3 videos a day, every day, 7 days a week. It was insane. But for a lot of these creators and a lot of these influencers, it was normal, right? And I think it actually, if you look back through history, what King Batch and a lot of these other social media stars who do daily vlogs or upload multiple times a day, it's actually part of a greater trend that we've seen throughout time. Consider this. Classical music. Beethoven, Mozart, Bach. What separated them from their peers? Was it the fact that they were exceptionally talented? Yeah, they were. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of these other dots, a lot of these other composers, who we don't talk about today, may have been just as talented, but they didn't produce as much. They didn't put out a quantity of compositions that led to the quality. We don't hear about the thousands of compositions that Mozart, Bach, and Beethoven put out. We remember a few masterpieces today. We don't hear about the hundreds of videos that these social media stars put out. We see the one or two that go viral. And that's because you have no idea what quality is until you let the market and the users decide for you. So that's why quantity leads to quality, right? It's a numbers game. You have to be proud of something, put it out, put it on a consistent schedule, at least once a week if you can, at least once a month if you can't. And most importantly, it's about knowing that, okay, you have to put on a deadline and keeping yourself honest with your audience. Here's another story. It was Sunday night, and I was like, oh my God, I got to come out with the next Monday cartoon, right? So I took this email, which is inspired by something I wrote during my first year at Google to my boss, and he took me aside. He's like, you know, you don't have to write like a junior associate just because you were fresh out of college. And I was like, but I am fresh out of college. He's like, right. You don't need to be senior, to speak like it. And so I was like, okay, I found that thread of inspiration. I put this cartoon together. I uploaded it on a Monday. I was like, all right, you know, whatever. This week's a wash. But I gotta keep going. I gotta keep my audience in tune. I checked back a few days later. 96,000 likes. 4,600 comments. I had no idea that this would take off. This is on LinkedIn. I didn't even know LinkedIn was this much of a content distribution platform. Right? Facebook, it took off. Twitter. This cartoon took off in a way that I never would have imagined. And truthfully, if I wasn't on a deadline for myself to consistently post content, I would have never hit publish. But the fact is, I thought, and I think a lot of people do as well, you're precious with what your idea of quality is. I'm going to be a perfectionist. I'm going to fine-tune this. Oh, this sentence has to sound so perfect and poetic. Get it to a place that you're proud enough to put it out there and keep a contract going with your audience. Keep that unspoken contract of, I'm going to give you something awesome as frequently as I possibly can. And if I really had to hammer this home, going back to Game of Thrones, imagine if they said, so they say new episodes every Sunday, right? Everyone gathers around. They watch Game of Thrones together. It's a cultural moment as much as it is a content moment. Now imagine if HBO said, you know, new episodes whenever we feel like it, right? Oh, new episodes whenever we feel inspired, right? They don't do that. They deliver. They say, here's what you're going to get, here's when you're going to get it, and we hope it's as awesome as possible, right? No matter what your brand is, no matter what story you're trying to tell, you need to tell it in an inspiring way, but you also need to tell it in a consistent way so you hold yourself accountable and you can leave more of your quantity to get out there to find quality, right? Okay, next point, collaboration. One of the best ways to grow an audience is to borrow from somebody else's. I saw this with these YouTube stars. They would collaborate like crazy. It's amazing. It's such a wonderful atmosphere of these stars helping one another. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to try the same thing. And I remember, there was an election that happened last year, remember the presidents, and right? And everyone was like, oh, let's make political cartoons. And so Huffington Post reached out. They're like, well, we've seen every vowel. We want you to make a political cartoon. We'll promote it to everyone. It'll be an awesome collaboration. And I was like, oh, yeah, awesome. I'm so excited about that. So what did I do? OK, I made a Trump cartoon. I did. And the point here is that bigger isn't better, because I made this cartoon. Huffington Post put it out everywhere. I was making this commentary, again, like that the media is propping up Trump, this, that. And the fact of the matter is that I have no business making a political cartoon, right? My brand is to help millennials and inspire them to think differently about their careers. And this led to a lot of exposure. By the numbers, it was a very successful collaboration. But by the quality and who those people are, it was something that I would have thought twice about if I could do it again. And I want to share an example of a smaller collaboration, but one that was far more effective. I did another collaboration with a page called Sales Humor. They have about 300,000, 400,000 fans, a fraction of the millions of fans that the Huffington Post has, right? But it was far more effective. It was a joke about the workplace, right? It led to a lot of people coming to my page. It led to good content for him. It's a win-win on both sides. And that would lead to a big bump in my traffic as well. So I think not only is it important to look for collaborations, but it's important to look for the right ones. right? And bigger is not always better, is the point there. Community. Okay, this is one of my favorite parts, and I also think it's one of the most overlooked. Community, people think about numbers, they think about fans, right? The more fans, the better. I think it's all about taking your fans on a journey with you. So, people get obsessed about the output, right? And you have to, right? The quality of the content, the consistency of the content, we've talked about that. But the fact of the matter is that people want to go on a journey with you. People are so hungry for more creativity in their lives that if you could offer a little bit of that, it'll put a big smile on their face. And what do I mean by this? Well, think back to our childhoods, right? MTV, Making the Band. I mean, they had 17 seasons of Making the Band? Something like that, right? P. Diddy, just keep going, like making a band. And the reason is because people, and then nobody really followed the band afterwards. But the fact of the matter is, people want to see that process. Making the video, same thing. MTV, like this has been a show for so many years. People want to see the video as much as they want to see the making of it. People want to see your content as much as they do the making of it, once you get to a certain point. And it's not for all your fans, but there's a certain number of fans who would love to see that and dive in deeper with you. So what I say is, don't just show people the process, also you can involve them. And I want to exemplify this. So, as every vowel was taking off, I started getting these messages on my Facebook page. Hey John, have you thought about making this cartoon? Hey John, I felt this today in my workplace, could you make it into an illustration? It kept on happening over and over again. I'm like, wouldn't it be awesome if you could take a situation that you're feeling in the workplace and I could illustrate it into a joke, right? Take this organic behavior that's happening, put it in a group, a Facebook group, start what we call the Every Vowel Superfans, and let people take ownership. I didn't know if it would work. I thought maybe, I saw something, I want to involve people in the process, and here's what's happened since. So like, just this past week, I posted this cartoon about entrepreneurship. It's a joke about, you have the social network, and it's like lines out the door to watch to talk about a college dropout, how he became a billionaire. But then you have the story of most entrepreneurs, like an older dude, leveraged experience to solve a problem, make decent income, starting a company you've never heard of. Nobody's going to that one. Just a commentary, right? I put that out there. I wouldn't believe some of the feedback I got from my fans. Somebody's like, dude is not gender neutral, make it professional or something like that. Change his eyes to be more open, this, that, all these nuanced feedback that made the cartoon that much better. I also did, going back to that article I wrote that had 1.5 million views, I think one of the big reasons it was a success is because I involved people in the process there too. I posted on my personal Facebook page, hey, what advice do you have for your younger self if you're going through interviews again? And I got some amazing answers. And I included those answers in the Forbes post. They got featured in Forbes. The article did well. The reader got benefit. And it was a win-win because I got to involve people in that process, right? So as you're creating the content, don't just think about how often you're going to post. Don't just think about what you're going to post, but think about how you're going to involve your readers and your fans on that journey. And if I could ever be helpful, feel free to add me. I ask these questions all the time, and it could be a way to continue the conversation and feature your stories as well. Because I'm telling you, writers and content creators are looking for inspiration in any place that they can find them. And I want to say another thing about bringing them on a journey. You don't just have to show the work and what goes into it. You can also talk about different moments along the way. I had a chance to meet one of my heroes, who is Arlene Klasky, one of the founders of Rugrats. How many people remember watching Rugrats growing up? Yeah, all right. Chucky Finster, Tommy Pickles, That was my childhood in a nutshell. And as a cartoonist, I got to meet Arlene and hear about how she talked about, she's like, oh, these characters remind me of Angelica and Tommy and Chucky. And it was just such a fascinating conversation. And I thought I'd share that with my audience, right? I got invited by the New York Times to go to a conference and talk about every vowel and sharing that with my audience, bringing them on that journey. And the point here is that it doesn't just have to be about the content. It could also be about other things that happen along the way. So the final word. So a lot of people obsess over this overnight success, and that's a total myth. By implementing these tactics and doing so over time, you put yourself in the best situation to go viral and build a community of people who really love your stuff. And I also want to say that it's all about paying it forward. I love this quote there's this old proverb that for people who have reached the top, it's their duty to send the elevator back down to bring up the next generation, right? And I really believe in doing that, even as every vowel is rising. So I always try to share opportunities, ask people for their input, feature them in places that I can. And if that's something that ever interests you, again, feel free to add me, or feel free if you want to follow every vowel on Facebook. If you like it, and then hit the following mark to see it first. That way, Facebook's algorithm doesn't do the mysterious thing that they do where they don't show all your stuff to all your fans all the time. I always try to share these opportunities with fans. And if I could be helpful in any other way, career advice, content advice, or you guys want to talk, I also thought I'd share my email here, which is just simply Jon@everyvowel. And I also want to end with one last story, which is after all this content creation, putting it out there, trying to share cartoons with people, and just share a piece of my soul with other people and see if that interests them. And going from this world where I saw these big, huge YouTube stars do it, going from this world where I saw people tattooing a brand on their backs because they loved it so much, I was amazed that I got an email like this the other day, which is, hey, I got one of your cartoons, and I showed it around to my husband, and he liked it so much that he wanted to get a tattoo of it. So I'll keep you posted if that ever happens. I was thinking about splitting the cost, and maybe that would be something cool that will happen later on. But I want to thank you guys for being such an amazing audience. Hopefully that was helpful. Again, if I could help in the future, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to pay it forward, and thank you guys so much.